Good. Good afternoon. Very nice to see you. Hope everyone has had a pleasant day here in sunny Helsinki. It's been an honor to host the JEF Summit here in Helsinki for the very first time. I'm here today with the host of last year, Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre, and the host of next year, Prime Minister Kristrún. In today's world, friends matter. Coalitions are important, values and interests meet. When we look at the JEF, for us, we have a layered approach. And by that I mean to say that first we look at national defense, then we look at regional defense, and then we look at NATO. For us, JEF is a bridge between all of this. It sort of arches from the Arctic to the North Atlantic to the Baltic Sea. And in today's world, we need smaller coalitions, which are agile, flexible, and quick, just like the JEF. And I have to say that having spent a lot of time in different types of international meetings, I find that the JEF discussion that we have is one of the best formats. There are no speaking notes, it's quite free-flowing, and usually we come up with good ideas. Today we gathered here in Helsinki to reaffirm our commitment to the European security and stability, to continued and strengthened support for Ukraine, and to demonstrate how JEF nations are stronger when working together as one. And of course, the undercurrent in everything that we do is deterring the Russian threat. For the first session, we had the honor to have President Volodymyr Zelensky participating virtually. The original idea was for him to be live with us, but due to last-minute travel arrangements, he gave us a video which all of you saw. The message from our side is very clear. The JEF nations stand with Ukraine, and our support continues. And I'm, of course, in the JEF context, particularly glad how we have taken forward the enhanced partnership between JEF and Ukraine. In the second session, we had a chance to spend time with Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada. The focus was very much on the North and the Arctic, or High North as we ended up calling it, with the lead taken by Norway and Jonas Støre. It's one, of course, of the core regions of the JEF and an area of increasing concern, and we'll continue to give it special attention when the JEF's role and its contribution to NATO's increased posture in the region continues to develop. And finally, we talked about JEF itself, its evolution. We'll be continuing on dinner tonight at the Mannerheim Museum, where we will be talking about our transatlantic partnership, and probably with a special focus also on the latest the war in Iran. So these words from me, and next goes Kristrún.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
And thank you for organizing this meeting today. I fully agree that this has been a very fruitful conversation. This is a good group also to meet at a political level during these times. We will be meeting in Reykjavik next year, and it's hard to say what kind of environment we're going to be meeting in, to be honest. I think us meeting in Iceland in maybe 12 months' time shows the broadness of this alliance, or this bridge of an alliance, that we're moving sort of focus from east to north, but at the same time realizing that this is all connected. Because at the end of the day, what type of Russia we're going to be looking at from the north is going to be very much affected with how Ukraine ends. So this is always going to be the backdrop of any discussion of security in the high north, of how you may put it, that we're all focused on containing the main aggressor from these areas, whether it's from the east, from the north, and we definitely do not want to see a victorious Russia on the northern flank 12 months from now. So that's why Ukraine always comes up. It was great to have Canada today, and I'm hoping also they can join us next year. We'll see. maybe a bit closer to fly to Iceland than to Finland. I don't know if that was a big factor in that end. But I'm also looking forward to having the JEF countries come and see how we do security in Iceland. There's been a big increase in awareness of security policy in Iceland over the past few months, I would say. We discuss a lot, both within NATO, but also within the JEF framework, how different capabilities work together. So we're not spending all on the same stuff. We work good together, and we do security in kind of a different way. We are mostly focusing on host nation support, infrastructure, facilities, being a good hub, being a good ally for those that come in. And that's also important for us to be able to show and also see how we can work better together. So again, Alex, thank you today, and I'm looking forward to welcoming everyone to Reykjavik next year.
Well, Mr. President, there, Alex, I agree with this summing up. Let me just pay attention to what we have done today. Being in Helsinki, we have had the opportunity to also focus on the situation awareness around this inner part of the Baltic Sea. Because this is big geography in the JEF, ranging from the high North Arctic through the Norwegian, Swedish, Finnish, Iceland geography, and then into the Baltic Sea. And part of this partnership in JEF, as you said, Alex, correctly, which is kind of between what we do as nations and what we do in NATO, big NATO, we have this regional layer in the middle. And in order to be effective there, we need to know about each other's environment and concerns and opportunities. So today, being with your Coast Guard, seeing their professional approach to managing this very intense traffic area of the inner Baltic has been very useful. Finnish professionalism, updated situation awareness, which I think has gained a lot. So that's my one add-on to this. I think this was very useful. And then I'd just like to reiterate what both of my colleagues said, that we need to stay focused on Ukraine. They are under attack. They are resisting well. In many ways, as we say when we visit Ukraine, they are at a better place than a year ago because they have been able to resist. They have been able to also really stand at the front line, but they are under constant attack. And I think the countries around here, especially the Nordic Baltic, are Ukraine's best friend. And with Netherlands and the UK, we agreed to really stand up for that, to procure to help procure what they need in terms of defending themselves and also politically towards a fair and just peace.
Now we will open the floor to questions. We'll go to the second row, Anne Kauranen, Reuters.
Thank you, Anne Kauranen for Reuters News. My question is about Pearl money. There is a Washington Post report out which says that the US Defense Department has used European Pearl money for purposes it was not intended for, and that the US intends to divert about $750 million provided by NATO countries to restock its own military, rather than sending it to Ukraine. Is this a topic that you discussed today? Are you able to confirm this? And what do the JEF countries intend to do about this? Thank you.
Well, the Pearl project is about purchasing military equipment from the United States, financed by European states. And my country is the #1 funder of the Pearl. But they are packages, so we are always several countries doing it together. So I see that basically as a mechanism by which we purchase packages of what is needed for Ukraine, packages put together by NATO military specialists, and getting that equipment into Ukraine. I don't know if there are special regulations for how the US spends the money for selling that equipment. Where I stand, I'm not aware of that. What I'm focused on is that we need to secure future funding for these packages because they are relevant. They concern core defense capabilities, especially in air defense. and Ukraine will continue to need that. And now in a closer, what shall I say, competition with countries around the Gulf who also need that same air defense.
And Petri Raivio, Finnish Broadcasting Company.
Thank you. I have a question on the Russian shadow fleet. Prime Minister Starmer and President Zelensky called for tougher action on the shadow fleet of Russian tankers. Yet there is not much language on that in the JEF statement. Do you disagree with them that the tougher action should be taken, or have we reached the level where we can go, or what did you talk about this and your view on this?
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked about it, and I welcome Prime Minister Starmer's initiative. It's not about tougher language, it's about tougher action, and I think we have shown our resolve both in the case of Eagle S and then in the case of the other one around New Year's Eve. We've seen similar type of action taken by Sweden, by Denmark, by Belgium, by the Netherlands, and now the UK as well. Stopping the funding of the Russian war machinery through the shadow fleet and any action to stop the ships that are providing this is very welcome. So we strongly support the initiative taken by Prime Minister Starmer.
And Henry Allik, Postimees, in the fourth row.
Question for President Stubb. Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his readiness for Ukraine to join JEF. Do you think that is possible? And if yes, then when? Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a new request. We've discussed it before. We felt from the beginning when Ukraine made the request that it would be important for us to have Ukraine present in one form or another. And we came up with the idea of an enhanced partnership. And I think for now, that's the path that we'll continue to work with. You should also know that our national security advisors will obviously be briefing their counterparts in the Ukraine from this meeting.
Elina Kervinen, Helsingin Sanomat, in the second row.
Thank you for the question. This is to President Stubb and Prime Minister Störe. You both have commented that the US-mediated negotiations between Ukraine and Russia have seemed to be stalled at this time. What is the reason, in your opinion, and what is your message to US regarding this? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I would encourage the US to keep up its engagement. We simply take note of the fact that there have been no meetings lately. There were meetings between Ukrainian negotiators and US negotiators over the weekend, but nothing scheduled with Russia. And we still believe that to reach a fair and just peace, there need to be talks, hopefully end of hostilities and negotiations. So we will encourage them to do that, and that is what we repeat to the US every time we have the occasion. Then we believe that we as Europeans should also be more clear in formulating key principles on what such a peace will look like. That this is a conflict in Europe, and the resolution of the conflict will matter to European countries more than others. So I still believe, and I've always believed, that US is absolutely key to get the parties to the table. And we also encourage the US to put more pressure on Russia to get to the table and to stand up for principles which are important far beyond Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, Jonas and I work very much in the back office with both the Ukrainian and the American negotiators, getting information and encouraging them to continue. I think something probably got lost in translation from VG and Norwegian to Finnish. What I said is that we basically have had 3 sets of trilateral negotiations between Ukraine, Russia, and the United States. And it is clear after 2 weekends of bilateral negotiations that the negotiations have, as you said, stalled, not stopped. We would like for them to continue. We think there's still a lot of work to be done, but our base case is still that Ukraine wants peace, Russia does not.
And the gentleman in the center, in the second row.
Mr. Stubb, about this organization, is this summit more about building self-confidence for small and maybe medium-sized countries than anything else?
I'm good. I'm glad you didn't ask that question for Prime Minister Starmer.
I know he's not here, right? No.
No, it's not. It's a group of like-minded countries who not only share values but also interests. And from a military and defense perspective, it makes sense. Jonas always talks about a horseshoe. So if you look at it from a geographic perspective, we form a horseshoe around the region. Some of us are in Brunssum, or some of the Baltics are in Brunssum and the Netherlands, and some of us are in Norfolk. And it's sort of a bridge between the regional operative structures that we have and then the big one. So in a crisis situation, when we are below Article 5, that's, I think, when the value added of this group comes in. I have to say, and I did say in my final remarks as well, I'm very thankful that Finland is a NATO member, because had it not taken place 3 years ago on the 4th of April, I'm not sure we would be welcomed as members right now. I think the value added that we have given to the organization was very much an embryo of the work that we did in JEF when we were not members. So the NATO members in JEF could report back to their allies that, you know, there are two serious militaries, Finland and Sweden, that are coming in. And in terms of size, with all due respect, Finland does have the largest military in Europe, together with Turkey, Poland, and Ukraine. So in that sense, I don't feel like a small or a medium-sized country.
And we'll go to the second row, Lauri Nurmi, Iltalehti.
Lauri Nurmi, security policy correspondent, Iltalehti, Finland. A question for President Stubb as well as Prime Ministers. You are saying that Russia doesn't want peace. They haven't negotiated in good faith. If the negotiations are deadlock, how do we force Mr. Putin and Russia to end the war? I think that this is a fundamental question for all of us. Thank you.
If I may start, I mean, I think that the dynamics need to start shifting when it comes to who has its back against the wall. There's definitely discussion in the past few weeks, and we felt that when we were in Kiev last time, that Ukraine, as strange as it might sound to say this, so many years into this, is still in a stronger position now than it was a year ago. The fatalities on the Russian side are growing, and they are gaining back ground, the Ukrainians, that Russia sought before. But on the economic side, I think that's going to be key. I think everyone is aware that the Russian economy has recently been standing in a poor situation. People are obviously concerned about oil prices going up, but that's not necessarily coming into the economy that quickly. So I think everyone needs to be aware how we can create the most economic pressure, because that's going to be the squeeze. Ukrainians are obviously strengthening their ground, but obviously further contributions on our behalf and this group's behalf is going to matter for their expertise.
Well, I think, you know, there needs to be pressure, and the calculus needs to be for Russia that they are better served with the peace agreement, and that the aggression they are undertaking now cannot continue.
And I think there are two elements to that. The first one is the actual battlefield. I mean, if you're looking at it from a Russian perspective, and if you're really honest to yourself, you have to understand that for 1% of Ukrainian land, they have lost 500,000 Russian soldiers. I think that puts things into perspective. And now that we are in a situation where the Ukrainians are killing over 30,000 Russians per month, and the Russians are not able to recruit back, we're getting closer to the moment when there might have to be a general call from the Russian part, and I think that runs in problem. The second one is the economy, and of course 2 weeks ago we could have said that because of the oil price the Russian economy is suffering. It still is, but we don't know what the long-term implications are I, of course, lament the fact that the US lifted its sanctions on Russian oil. Hopefully it's a short-term thing. But I think one of the things I hope that economists around the world will be looking at a little bit closer is the state of Russian banks. According to the information we have, we're close to a banking crisis, and this will have then financial implications as well. So there are a lot of things that are coming together, but just like Kristrún and Jonas said, there needs to be a change in the strategic goal of Russia for this war to end.
And the gentleman in the first row.
Hi, Wait Tomek from Bloomberg News. I was wondering, my question's for President Stubb, if you think it's still possible to have some kind of exchange of military support in the Gulf for supporting Ukraine.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing now is an understanding also on the part of our American friends of the capabilities of the Ukrainian military and defense. Ukraine has now gone basically into the Gulf region with 3 military teams and negotiators to help the closest allies of the US in the Gulf to build up their air defense against modern drones and missiles. And we hope that this capability will then lead to a lot of goodwill also with the Americans. We have to understand that right now Russia is giving intelligence to Iran, which kills American soldiers and destroys infrastructure in the Gulf region. Ukraine is now out there to help the Gulf countries to prevent this from going further on. So I think if there's a silver lining to what is going on with Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine, it is that Ukraine can help the Gulf states, and I hope this will have ramifications not only on the peace negotiations, but the general approach that the US takes to the conflict.
Maria Nykänen, MTV, third row.
Thank you. This week, several drones, Ukrainian drones, have entered airspace of the Baltic states. Are you concerned about these incidents, and what kind of investments are needed for detection of drones?
We discussed this issue, and you will see in the joint statement, paragraph number 2, which was added on at a later stage because of these incidents. I think more than anything else, it shows us that we need to cooperate with the Ukrainians in order to build up our own air defenses as far as drones and missiles are concerned. They have the know-how, and this is something that we could look at with JEF partners as well.
And the lady in the second row. Here.
Thank you. My name is Laura Hazanov. I'm here with Polish State TV, and my question is, what are your plans for JEF's expansion? Are there any plans for new members other than Ukraine?
I mean, we've discussed sort of the role that JEF should play. I think there's always willingness to have interaction with more countries, but it's a fine line because you don't want to be creating a mini NATO either. You don't want to be creating a forum where you know, there's a shift in alignment or focus. But I think we've solved it well up until now with the enhanced partnership. We've had people coming into meetings like today, Prime Minister Carney, and has added value. So I think this type of mechanism at least has worked well up until now.
Ida Hallikainen in the third row.
Thank you. What can we expect next from the situation in Iran? When you have been in contact with Trump or his inner circle, what has been their message on the matter?
Well, this is a conflict now entering its 4th week this weekend, and it's very hard to have a clear view on how it's going to end. It's still on escalation. So our impression is that the United States has its military targets that it is going after to complete, and it's about degrading Iranian military capacities. Together with Israel, they are engaging intensely on that, and Iran still has the capacity to respond in the region. This week there are talks about potential talks on ending the conflict diplomatically. We believe that the consequences of this war far beyond the region, as any war, I mean, like the war in Ukraine has consequences far beyond Ukraine. But now we see on the energy, we see on food, we see on fertilizer, not coming out of this region with very serious consequences for the world economy. So it's really a responsibility on the parties to find a way out of this escalation. And that's what we encourage them to do. We also condemn Iran's attacks on neighboring states that have not committed any attack and are being affected by Iranian missiles and drones. So the Hormuz Strait now being nearly closed is a kind of a choke on the world economy, and the sooner it can be resolved, the better.
Time for a couple more questions. Niilo Semojoki, Finnish News Agency, here in the third row.
A question for Prime Minister and President Stubb. President Trump has been using very harsh language about NATO allies not coming to help or not aiding US and Israel in the Hormuz Strait and in the war against Iran. To this evening, when you take stock of the transatlantic relations, where do you think that we stand in terms of trust over the Atlantic?
Well, I mean, we're very pragmatic with our transatlantic partnership. I mean, part of it is value-based. Most of it is now interest-based. I have said from the beginning that United States foreign policy is different from what it used to be. We should work on issues where there is a clear landing zone and interest, defense, NATO, I guess in the Finnish case, icebreakers, and then we should respectfully disagree on issues linked to international organizations or climate change or, say, the European Union. As far as the war in Iran is concerned, it is not a NATO matter because NATO is a defense alliance. And the starting point, of course, is that when the war is over, there will be probably countries that are willing to help to, say, keep the Straits of Hormuz open. That is one of the reasons that Finland, Norway, remember if Iceland joined the declaration on the matter with 31 other countries. So we're taking it, you know, day by day and continue to work with the Americans.
I second all of that. NATO is a defensive alliance for our region. Let me first say that I have no sympathy for this Iranian regime. It has been terrorizing its own people and denying their human rights, their freedom rights, killing their people when they've been standing up for their freedoms, and they've also been spreading conflict and misery in the region. That being said, I will repeat what Norway has said from the start. This is not our war. It was initiated by the United States and Israel without consultation. We believe this war should end. We believe that international law should be respected. And then we have relations across the Atlantic which are important for both sides. And the way we look after security, for example, in the northern Arctic waters, is still a matter of common interest. That's where we focus. And again, I will say, as President Stubb, we strongly wish to see that Hormuz Strait open. Norway is a shipping nation. We have ships in the region. But we are not approaching that by waging a military war.
And last question goes to Maria Steinroos, Finnish Broadcasting Company.
Hi, I remember last year in Oslo you called Mr. Trump together. Did you call him this time? Who should you call now? And
well, let's
who
ask
should
the
take the
host.
leadership in Europe when the situation is quite unstable?
We don't have a call planned, and we're going to talk about the transatlantic partnership. But if a call materializes, all good. But no, nothing planned now.
Thank you very much. Press conference has ended.
Thank you.
Thanks.